The moment Meghan Markle saw Catherine, Princess of Wales, step onto Italian soil, the entire illusion cracked in real time. Not slowly, not quietly. Instantly. One woman arrived with cameras already prepared to worship her image. The other arrived with nothing but presents, and somehow the world stopped breathing for her. That is the real story nobody wants to say out loud because it destroys years of carefully manufactured narratives in a single devastating comparison. And over the course of just 7 days, the contrast between these two women became so brutal, so impossible to ignore that even major media networks, celebrity allies, and billion-dollar PR strategies could not contain the fallout anymore.
I don't know how I would compare this to anything other than, and it feels lazy, but a Diana appearance back in the day. I mean, she really was just so celebrated, and it was such a wonderful response to her.
Meghan Markle, she posted this very weird, sultry video. She's been posting all these videos where she's like rubbing her chest and she's looking real dramatic.
King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American terrorist.
She's still, pursuing that nonsensical venture as ever, selling mundane domestic products at astronomically high prices. A candle, yours for $64. Jam. It's not even jam, $14. Never gonna work. It's never gonna work.
What I'd like to mention here is everything with Harry is contrived by the people who are driving him. Now, it's coincidental that it should happen and be published today, the very day that the King goes to Golders Green to meet the very people who were attacked a couple of weeks ago. Tell me that's not control.
Everybody keeps pretending this was about bad headlines or online criticism, but no. This week collapsed because Catherine walked into Italy looking effortless while Meghan's entire California operation suddenly started looking artificial under brighter light. That's what made this so dangerous. Catherine did not attack anyone. She did not give interviews. She did not leak stories. She simply appeared, and suddenly every weakness inside Meghan's brand became visible all at once like cracks spreading through glass.
But I genuinely think that this is the Princess of Wales' most important, most significant trip, not just since she's been Princess of Wales, but since she's been a working royal. This is her comeback. 300 Italian journalists have applied for media accreditation to see the Princess of Wales in Reggio Emilia. That is unheard of. They've had to reduce it down to about 30. They've left lots of people disappointed.
And what happened afterward felt almost unreal. A wounded veterans charity started losing sponsors. A luxury lifestyle brand built around expensive jam and candles became internet comedy material. Reports emerged about blacklists, financial pressure, media panic, and private frustration inside Montecito. Meanwhile, Italy was treating Catherine like royal history had come alive again. That contrast was catastrophic because audiences instinctively know when something is genuine and when something is being sold to them.
Delivering a masterclass on how to charm the crowds, the quiet dignity of Kate's first foreign trip since her brave battle to beat cancer offered a stark contrast to the Sussex's recent tawdry tour of Australia. Make no mistake, Meghan will have hated Kate's courageous comeback.
To understand why this exploded the way it did, you have to understand what the Italy trip actually represented. This was not some quick royal photo opportunity arranged by palace handlers desperate for positive coverage. 300 Italian journalists applied for access just to cover Catherine speaking about early childhood education. Think about that carefully. Not fashion, not celebrity scandal, childhood development. And they still had to reduce the press list dramatically because demand was overwhelming. That kind of attention cannot be faked anymore. Audiences are too cynical now. People only react like that when emotional trust already exists.
Catherine, the Princess of Wales, very successful, very first 2-day tour over in Italy. And what was interesting, I thought, you could see that her confidence had really come back. And I'm so pleased for her, because I know, it's difficult. I've got friends who've gone through a very similar thing with that particular illness. It's wonderful if you have great people around you, like the Prince, like her children, her family. She's so lucky to have that thing. Behind the scenes, though, in the land of Montecito, they were picking that apart dot by dot, to see now if they can implement this and patch it over the likes of Meghan Markle.
Then came the moment that really shook people. Royal historian Hugo Vickers described the tour as perfect specifically because it did not look staged. And that sentence landed like a warning shot across the entire royal media war, because perfection in monarchy is not about glamour anymore. It is about authenticity, realness, human warmth that survives close inspection.
Well, it was, and I think it was a sort of perfect royal tour because it was a fact-finding mission. You know, she's going to report back, and she's apparently going to go on similar tours.
And suddenly, details started surfacing that transformed the trip from impressive into emotionally lethal for Meghan's image. People learned Catherine had once lived in Florence before university. She studied art history there, learned Italian there. Nobody even knew. There had been no Netflix documentary milking it, no podcast episodes romanticizing it. Then she crouched beside Italian children and spoke fluent Italian naturally, calmly, without performance. The children did not politely smile for cameras. They ran toward her at full speed. That is the part nobody inside Hollywood PR culture understands anymore. Children do not react to branding. They react to energy. And right there, without ever naming Meghan directly, the entire comparison became obvious. Commentators described Catherine as laser-focused. One mission, one purpose, early childhood development, years of consistency, years of research, years of repeating the same commitment quietly. Then came the indirect hit at Meghan. Scattergun, jumping from project to project, reinventing herself every 6 months, constant relaunches, constant rebranding, constant attempts to force cultural relevance instead of earning it. What made this even more emotional was the memory people still carried from Catherine's health crisis. Only 14 months earlier, the internet had practically turned her suffering into entertainment. Conspiracy theories exploded everywhere. Talk shows mocked her disappearance. Celebrities chased engagement using her name while she was privately recovering from cancer treatment and protecting her children from public panic. But Catherine never retaliated, never launched revenge campaigns, never monetized the pain. When she finally spoke publicly, she looked fragile, exhausted, human. And instead of making herself the center of sympathy, she said 3 devastatingly simple words to others facing illness: "You are not alone." That sentence changed everything because people saw sincerity in her eyes. Not performance, not branding, not strategy, sincerity. And sincerity creates emotional loyalty stronger than any publicity campaign money can buy, which is exactly why thousands of people traveled hours just to catch a glimpse of her in Italy, not because palace officials instructed them to, because 20 years of consistency had accumulated into something rare in modern celebrity culture: trust. Then the camera cuts mentally back to California, and suddenly the contrast becomes almost painful. Right as Catherine was receiving thunderous public affection in Italy, Meghan released another glossy as ever promotional video online. Dramatic poses, carefully controlled lighting, sensual tea drinking shots, chest-touching gestures meant to look cinematic and aspirational. And within minutes, the internet turned savage. Commentators openly mocked the performance-heavy presentation, questioning whether Meghan fundamentally misunderstands how audiences perceive her now. The royal family allegedly saw this collision coming years ago, and that is what makes the next part feel almost chilling in hindsight. Because while Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were reportedly scrambling behind the scenes over media narratives, another crisis was quietly exploding around the one project that once gave Harry genuine public respect: the Invictus Games. Sponsors were disappearing. Questions about finances were growing louder. Governments were pulling back support. And suddenly, an organization created to honor wounded veterans was being dragged into conversations about celebrity branding and image management instead of service. That is the part longtime royal watchers find genuinely heartbreaking, because people remember the old Harry, the version of him that connected naturally with soldiers, veterans, grieving families, and injured servicemen without needing cameras to frame every interaction dramatically. Sources close to the organization even hinted that when Meghan is absent, Harry supposedly returns to that older version of himself, relaxed, authentic, emotionally present with veterans instead of locked inside performative optics. But once the branding machine activates, once the global tours, dramatic entrances, designer wardrobes, and choreographed image moments begin, something something changes. Suddenly, the wounded veterans stop being the center of attention and become scenery around a celebrity narrative instead. And donors notice that shift immediately. Sponsors notice. Governments notice. Meanwhile, right in the middle of all this instability, reports surfaced about another massive publicity move allegedly being planned, a vow renewal. And this is where people truly started raising eyebrows because the framing reportedly being floated sounded almost unbelievable. The idea that they never got the wedding they truly deserved. Imagine hearing that after billions watched one of the most globally celebrated royal weddings in modern history. But insiders claim the real motivation may not be romance at all. Content, streaming opportunities, licensing, documentaries, revenue, because every emotional event now appears connected to monetization strategy. Every family moment risks becoming future programming material. And then came perhaps the most revealing detail of the entire week. Reports suggested Harry was allegedly negotiating future UK appearances connected to Invictus while demanding guaranteed respect and special treatment from Meghan beforehand. That single detail landed disastrously because respect does not work like contractual protection. People instinctively understand this. Respect is earned slowly through behavior, humility, consistency, and service. It cannot be demanded before arrival like hotel accommodations. And the devastating reality for Meghan is that Catherine never has to request it. It follows her automatically now because 2 decades of public conduct quietly built emotional credibility stronger than any Hollywood strategy team could manufacture. That is why the comments reportedly coming from insiders close to Prince William hit so hard. 5 simple words changed the entire emotional atmosphere surrounding the royal feud. Focus on the things that matter. Hidden inside that sentence was something colder than anger. Indifference. The suggestion that William and Catherine no longer even view Harry and Meghan as central players in the monarchy's future anymore. And for people whose entire post-royal strategy appears built around remaining culturally relevant to the institution they left behind, that kind of silence becomes terrifying because public feuds still create attention. Being emotionally dismissed creates irrelevance. Then came the final comparison that pushed this story over the edge emotionally. Australia. William and Catherine preparing for future visits there while memories of Harry and Meghan's heavily criticized Australia tour resurfaced online again. Critics revisited accusations of staged enthusiasm, image-focused appearances, and controversial spending during emotional public moments. And suddenly, people started realizing something uncomfortable about monarchy itself. The institution never actually needs to publicly destroy anyone. It simply keeps functioning. Quietly, patiently, showing up repeatedly until comparisons start forming naturally in the public mind without official statements ever being necessary. That is what happened in Italy. Catherine walked through crowds speaking softly, smiling naturally, interacting with children effortlessly, and years of silent consistency suddenly became visible all at once. But what many people forget is the brutal personal cost behind that composure. Years of paparazzi harassment before marriage, endless criticism about her appearance, her family, her body language, her marriage, private photos published without consent, phone hacking scandals, cancer treatment while conspiracy theories exploded online around her children and marriage. Yet despite all of it, not one revenge memoir, not one emotional tell-all interview blaming everyone else for her suffering. And that is why Italy became such a devastating symbolic moment. Because Meghan spent years trying to become the star attraction of the monarchy, while Catherine quietly became the future of it. One built visibility through performance. The other built loyalty through endurance. One constantly needs narrative control. The other gains power precisely because she rarely fights publicly at all. And as William and Catherine prepare for the next global chapter while Harry and Meghan reportedly battle financial pressure, media instability, collapsing partnerships, and growing public exhaustion, the contrast no longer even needs explaining anymore. People can already feel it instinctively. And somewhere inside palace walls, they probably understand the most brutal truth of all. This was never a temporary PR war. This was the slow public separation between celebrity and institution. One fades when attention disappears. The other survives generations.